Oh, it is one lush spring day and we are back. Wanted to do a quick upload since I've been able to get on the new Fox, the factory Fox float X2, the new version for 26. It's been a good feeling shock. I definitely last year would have considered myself kind of a Fox suspension skeptic slash hater because I like the RockShox tunes a little bit more wide open, and the buttercups and the forks, just keeping things soft on the hands. However, Fox has been making some moves. Thank goodness we have some market competition. Since we're climbing, I figured I'd just start with the lockout lever, and pleased to say it's definitely a stiffer lockout lever than I've experienced on Fox shocks before, where it just feels like a little extra low speed compression damping. Doesn't feel as lockout, if you will. And to be fair, the lever just says firm. I always assumed Fox kept that kind of conservative, so when people forget to turn it off, they don't blow their forks or their rear shocks up. But we're to the top so I can turn that around. But yeah, I've had a really good experience with that firm lever, especially in the context of this Firebird with the DW link. Like, things get real zippy feeling and firm. All right, so this Fox Float X2 test is gonna start on Dad Bod. We're riding Galbraith Mountain in Bellingham today. Just coming down from the summit, little connector gets you to Dad Bod. Yeah, so my initial experience with kind of the fork and the rear shock on this Firebird is that they both feel like fairly fast, wide open damping in the context of like Fox suspension, but also a little bit more in like inherent damping. And I think that comes down to like the tune. It sounds like Cocalis and the team like really worked on the rear suspension damping tune. So that is to be noted. It sounds like you have some good adjustability. So I'm running the shock completely wide open, and the fork for that matter. No damping. I think I've added one click of high speed for like steeper terrain to the fork. It's slimy out here. Dang. Yee. So that initially, or like for me, that's like, darn it, I kind of wish that, like, I'm a heavier guy, so I should need more damping for my spring rate, and yet I'm running things wide open still. Like, I'd kind of like the wide open rebound setting to scare me, and it's just not even close to being there. I tend to like things like deeper sag with more open fluid damping. Yeah, this first part isn't as bumpy as the second part. Yee. So you guys can comment if I'm misaligned in my thinking, but for me, it's like I'd really like when the shock is wide open for it to feel too much, so we can come back and we know that I'm actually at a setting I want to be at. However, with all the clickers opened wide open, so no compression damping, no rebound damping, it feels good. Still maybe a bit over damped compared to what I would prefer, but the way the damping comes on is very velvety and kind of quiets the bike out. So when you're getting weird, when you're really hammering into stuff, it feels much more settled and like it's absorbing energy. However, I wouldn't mind, being able to get the rebound faster to generate more pop, like especially when temps drop I'm going to be even further out of range, and the rebound's going to be even slower, even slurpier. However, just because that's my preference doesn't mean I'm not really quite enjoying this shock. It's got that similar X2 feel from the last generation, where it feels like very nicely, like the oil, the damping is just moving in a really nice way. Doesn't necessarily feel harsh to me. Feels real lovely off the top. It's got that, pretty sure it's got like some higher volume air canister stuff going on. Wow, yeah, I gotta say, on this, I haven't been riding that long, but on this bumpy trail, this bike is definitely like soaking things up really well without feeling like floppy. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. This suspension feels like it deadens things out, and then perhaps just the nature of the Firebird, it doesn't feel ultimately too ground hugging. I feel like suspension can be hard to review, but I feel like if I was on a RockShox right now, the rebound speeds for those stock tunes would be higher, like more open, but a little bit less controlled feeling. Like this bike, or this rear shock, this X2, it definitely feels very poised, which maybe that's just the result of more damping, but what I'm not feeling, even though I am feeling damping, is like a nasty harshness, and that is just killer. I feel like that's been my experience with mountain bike suspension, having too much damping in the past. Return to the puddles. Yee. Yeah, gotta say, I felt a little slower today, maybe just because of the wetter conditions, but the bike very much so did not beat me up through there. And that trail will often, you'll get to the bottom and you'll just want to shake out your arms. So that's a huge bonus. Yeah, it looks like they fixed this drop in here. Ooh, yeah, nice. Yay, trail improvements. So, what I haven't talked about yet is the obvious. I don't know, most of you guys are pretty hardcore, so you know the scoop. But yeah, that outgoing Fox X2 model was comically unreliable, and a lot of bike manufacturers spec'd it for so long and just probably had to deal with so many warranty claims. But if you haven't watched the more technical breakdowns of this new shock, they went to like a mono shared tube instead of like a twin tube internal design, which is what vehicle suspension uses, which is always a good sign. I don't know if we should be reinventing the wheel in the mountain bike industry. Yee. But yeah, should, you'd think, be quite a bit more reliable, but they're gonna be in a bad way if it's not. But I think just making the design simpler has to do a lot. But as far as what I'm talking about today, just the feel of this thing, and yeah, it's a little bit more deadened, a little bit more velvety, or it is quite velvety, which is, thank goodness. I feel like I've felt a lot of harsh damping in the past on mountain bike suspension. Like, it's come so far, and I don't know the ins and outs of like why it was so hard to get to the spot we're in now, but definitely just keeps getting better. But yeah, so far I'd say if you're the kind of rider that likes a little bit more oily feeling, higher compression rear shock, you're really gonna love this thing. And even for me, who likes things a lot faster and under damped, it just the way that compression comes on is just real silky and nice and not harsh. I should try playing with the clickers up here This next section would be a good section to try, like some high speed. I don't think I have any interest in running low speed compression, but I'll try a little high speed compression. Have in-frame storage again, so I might be able to leave this pack at home at some point. Just got this high above limited edition Cool Kids pack, the one everybody's wearing now. High speed outer one, low speed 3 mil. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll try 4 clicks. Halfway on, just for this next section's pumpy anyway. I don't need the most silky suspension. Maybe I'll put this in my... Yeah, we'll see how that high speed damping comes on. High speed compression damping. This is a little bit smoother section here. Oh yeah, might be feeling that already. Nice. It's always a good sign when you can actually like feel it. Definitely feels like it's staying higher in the travel. Feels more propped up. Yeah, took a nice little route to the back end there. Didn't feel, oh yeah, wow, the whole bike just feels propped up further forward. But yeah, got some roots here. Doesn't feel harsh, which is killer. Not necessarily how I'd want my bike to feel on this kind of single track, but wow, yeah, pretty pillowy the way the high speed comes on. Yeah, I feel like the whole rear end is just propped up a few degrees, which it was. I'm gonna take that back off. Pretty impressive that that's not harsh, so makes me a bit more likely to use compression damping on the rear shock. But I feel like for the trails I ride tend to be, you know, steeper and bumpy. Don't mind that rear end just sitting deep into the travel and then keeping rebound open enough to, you know, not get packed up. All right, so now we will ride Irish Death. Give this thing another little hammering, but wide open again. And this trail definitely gets bumpier. Yay! Yay! Not too much to report on yet. Not too many hits. This upper section's actually pretty smooth, other than it's a wet track today. That spring kind of wet. And the trees are just kind of absorbing it all. Yeah, felt soft through there. Oh wow. Yeah, oh wow. Just the whole bike felt real capable through there. Hard to separate what of that was coming from the rear end and what was coming from the fork and just the bike geometry, but this whole setup, hard to say exactly what's doing what, is not beating me up. I feel so fresh on the bike. And if the X2 is responsible for a good portion of that, that's really impressive. Yay! A little harder to pick the bike up across that. Do feel like the rebound is slower than what I would prefer. Wow, just hammering those brake bumps, and this bike just feels so solid. Definitely not getting like pingy, hard feedback through that shock, which is quite impressive. It's a good day where you're just hammering wet trails and the lens doesn't get all muddy. Yeah, I feel like the ability of this setup to hammer could be partially due to this bike. Woo! But I do think a lot of just the energy dissipation is coming from that X2, which is really quite impressive. So yeah, if you want to see the Firebird review, you'll have to go on Freehub Magazine's YouTube for that. But for this, like what part of that is coming from the X2, I would guess a fair bit. And I'm pretty in tune with how these pivot DW bikes track. Yeah, the ability to just like hammer and not get beat up, really impressive. Would really like to be able to speed up the rebound just to keep the bike a bit peppier. Yeah. Yeah, it does just put me in like a just hammer the tech kind of mood. Just like straight line and blast through stuff kind of mood. It's fun. But it's a bit more deadened and less playful. But I think, you know, if I got a different tune on it from a shop, I bet I could get it to do both. I think I'd save the compression attributes while speeding up the rebound perhaps, or give myself more range for the compression, and I can just dial it up when I want it. Yee! Oh, well, that's all I got for today. Just a on-trail review of the X2. Hopefully it was insightful. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this.